Have you ever thought to yourself, I know exactly what I need to do, so why am I still not doing it? I mean, you're smart. You have heard the podcasts, you've read the books, you even had moments where things felt like they were starting to change, but then if you're anything like me, somehow you have ended up back in the same place, the same reactions, the same patterns playing out over and over again. And of course, underneath that is the same frustration. So, what's going on? Because it shows up in moments you don't plan for, like in a conversation with a spouse where something small is said and it's not even that big, and yet it hits you in the chest. Your muscles get tense, your nervous system activates, and before you even realize it, your tone shifts, and maybe you get harsher than you wanted to, or you go the other way and you pull back and you shut down. And there's a part of you that's going, no, 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 not this, not again. And maybe later that night, after the conversation with your spouse, or maybe it was a conversation with somebody at work or an interaction throughout your day. And what are you doing? You're replaying the conversation over and over again in your head. And you're sensing the tension and you're sensing the activation again. And here's where it gets hard, because the way that you reacted isn't what you wanted. In fact, it's not even how you think of yourself, and it's definitely not who you're even trying to become. And that gap between how you want to show up and how you've been showing up in the moment, that's where stuck starts to feel like, oh, this is just who I am. But I want to give you something different today, a different way to understand this, because the issue isn't that you're doing something wrong. Rather, you're missing one of three necessary pieces. And I want you to know that real change, especially when it comes to our mental, emotional, relational health, it requires three things working together. I'm going to tell you about them in a moment. But most people have one of these that they're working with, maybe two at best, but we need all three to be working together in order to get where we have decided we want to be, where we want to be, where we long to be, where we dream about being when it comes to our mental and emotional and relational health. So let's get in. The first element that we need is information. We need to know what to do. And this is actually where most people start. Usually we YouTube, or we Google something, or we look for a book or a podcast just to know what to do. When it comes to emotional health, this is figuring out maybe what triggers are, or trying to understand, hey, what's the sequence from trigger to the way that I express what's going on for me emotionally. It might be learning about what healthier responses might look like. And of course, right information, correct information matters, because without that kind of clarity, well, we're all just kind of guessing when it comes to building a business, or how to raise kids, or heck, how to have a raised flower bed garden, or certainly how to cultivate our mental and our emotional and our relational health. Okay? We do need information. Information creates awareness. But listen, information doesn't automatically create change. You can know, hey, I shouldn't really react like this. You can know, I need to pause. You can know, I need to communicate better, and still default to the same thing, the same responses in your relationships, in your mindset, in your emotional health, because information lives in your thinking. But the patterns that you live are even deeper than that. So information is important. It's necessary. We want to get control of our thinking. We want to start identifying right thoughts and the right pathway to do certain things. But by itself, the information is not enough. In fact, I love learning. There's research that shows that when we learn something new, there's actually a shot of dopamine. This is why we love learning new things. If you're anything like me, maybe you bought courses, some that you got 25% or halfway through, or maybe all the way through, but that doesn't mean that your life was changed. The information was super interesting. You learned what to do, whether it's emotional health or real estate or cooking something, whatever it is. And the learning was really fun. You got the right information, but that didn't necessarily mean transformation. Why? Because that's just one piece. And we need three pieces working together. So if the first element is information. Well, here's the second piece that we really need if we're going to experience lasting change in our mental, our emotional, our relational health. And the second piece is implementation, actually executing, actually doing the thing that we just learned about what it is that we need to do. This is where things start to get real. This is where it goes from, do I understand this, to, am I actually doing what matters in order to get the results that I want? So this is when you're triggered, or when your emotions are high, or when your system is moving really fast. Actually executing the mindset, the skill set, and of course the tool set to take control of our mental, emotional, our relational health. Now, let's get really honest. This is where most people struggle. And it's not because they don't know what to do. In fact, maybe you found yourself, you've listened to a podcast and you're sharing what you learned with a friend even before you've begun implementing it. Or you're at a dinner with your family at Thanksgiving or some holiday and you're telling them about these ideas that you read about in a book or heard about, but you haven't actually implemented it yet. Now, that's no shade on anybody. We all do that, but it's much easier to capture the information without actually implementing it. So it's not that we don't know what to do, it's that we actually haven't started implementing, executing, doing it quite yet. And here's the key. I want you to remember this. You don't rise to your intentions. You fall back to what you've already practiced. In other words, there are neural pathways that are well branded into your brain. They can change, thank God, due to neuroplasticity. There are patterns in your nervous system when it recognizes what it registers, true or not, accurate or not, but what it registers as threat or danger. There are patterns already there. Now, thank God, again, we are capable of reconfiguring and repatterning those responses. But listen, we will not rise to our intentions. We will fall back to what we've practiced. And so, if our system has practiced reacting quickly or avoiding discomfort or shutting down, that's what's going to show up under pressure. Which means that real change requires slowing things down, intentionally practicing a different response in real time. Spoiler alert, it's probably going to feel uncomfortable the first couple times you try something new, even if it's healthier, even if it's more adaptive and you know it's better. Remember learning to ride a bike, it was pretty uncomfortable the first couple times, but now you're an expert at it. Same with our mental health, our emotional health, our relational health. But real change requires slowing things down enough to practice something different and then, of course, repeating over time. Not perfectly, but consistently. So element 1 is information. We need to know what to do. Element 2 is implementation. We need to actually start doing the things that matter. But guess what? Even with those 2 steps, people often fall short of where they want to be and where they know that they can be when it comes to their health. And that's why we need a third piece, which is inspiration. The belief that you can actually do this. Inspiration is one that often people underestimate because you can know what to do and you can even start implementing the right things to a degree, but there's always going to be a messy middle. It's always going to be a little bit harder or more uncomfortable than what you thought. And so that's where, if we don't believe that it's actually possible and we're not surrounded by people speaking that belief into us, guess what? We're going to fall off. We're going to stop implementing what matters most, and we're not going to get to where we want to, whether it comes to our mental, emotional, or relational health that we know is possible. Without inspiration, when things get hard, that's where we quit. And it's not always in a dramatic throwing the towel in or stomping out of the restaurant and saying, I'm done with you. No, I just mean we stop trying. Because underneath there's this belief, hey, this might work for other people. Seems like other people are doing better than me, but this isn't going to work for me. And that belief shapes our effort. that belief shapes our perseverance. It shapes our consistency. In fact, it's going to shape how long we stay in the process to see change or not. This is why, listen, inspiration isn't hype. It's not motivation. It's not getting rah, rah, yeah, we're going to do this. It's truth. It's the growing confidence that, you know what? I'm not stuck. I just haven't had the right support yet. This is why being in the right rooms matters. When we're in rooms where people really hear what we're thinking, what we're feeling, where we feel stuck, but also take seriously where it is that we want to go, and they don't laugh in our face and they don't think it's crazy. In fact, some of them are already 2, 3, 4 steps ahead of us on the journey. That changes us. If you want to change you got to change the room. And when you're with people who sometimes, when you don't have the belief, they believe for you and they remind you what is true. That's so, so powerful. In fact, there's a story where there's a man on a mat and he has no way of getting to Jesus who can heal his physical ailment. And so 4 of his friends pick him up and they go to this house, and the house is crowded because everyone wants to hear this miracle working, amazing teacher, Jesus. And they can't get in, and they can't get in, and they can't get in. But they want their friend to experience a miracle. And so the story goes that they climb up to the top of the house. And of course, in the first century, roofs were very different then. And it was more hay and clay and wood. And so they opened up a space in the ceiling and they dropped their friend right in front of Jesus. And the scriptures say that when Jesus saw their faith, not even the faith of the guy on the mat who needed to be healed, but when Jesus saw their faith, the faith of the friends, he did a miracle. Sometimes when we don't have the belief ourselves, we need to borrow others' belief. They're believing bigger things for us. They know that there are breakthroughs that are possible for us. And that only comes by being in the right rooms with those kinds of people. So you can have the right information and know what to do. You can even start the implementation of actually doing the things that matter. But when things get hard, if you only have those 2, you're going to fall off. You also need inspiration, the belief, either from yourself or, in the meantime, borrowed from others, that, you know what, this is actually possible. Only when we have all 3 is when we're going to really cultivate emotional, mental, and relational health. And that's what I know is possible for you. And that's what I'm believing for you. So listen, if you have been feeling stuck at all, it's not because you're broken. It's just because of patterns. You've heard me say that before. And probably it's because you've been trying to change with either information alone, or maybe some effort, some implementation, but without structure, without accountability, or without the belief that actually you can do this, and you can do this long term. And when even one of those is missing, guess what? You stay in the same cycle. So here's the question I want you to consider. And if you're watching on YouTube, I want you to comment below this video. Which one are you missing right now? Is it information, meaning you lack the clarity? Is it implementation, meaning you lack accountability and consistency? Or is it inspiration? If you're honest with yourself, there's a part of you that doesn't even believe that change is possible for you. And hey, if you're realizing I don't just need more information, I need help actually doing this and staying with it. Did you know that's exactly what I help people with? If you want the support, putting all 3 of these necessary elements together in your life, not just understanding it, but actually changing how you show up, I want you to book a call with me. I'll put the link in the show notes and certainly in the description on YouTube as well. On the call, we'll talk through what's been keeping you stuck and whether working together even makes sense. I'll let you know either way, but you will get massive clarity and massive value out of our time together. You'll find that link below to book a call with me. But regardless, remember this, friend. You're not stuck because you failed. You're stuck because something necessary has been missing. And once all 3 of these are in place, information, implementation, and inspiration, listen, change stops feeling impossible and starts becoming almost predictable. God bless. You got this, friend. I'll see you in the next episode.